so this next section is basically a couple of team predictions for KOF 15. I'm gonna skip over all the ones that have basically been deconfirmed by what we know now, and I'm gonna look at the ones that are still currently a mystery. Team AntiNests. Sylvie Paula, Angel, and Whip, the second team assembled by Hybridgothica exclusively to handle the threat of Nests, consisting entirely of former Nest agents of whom inside information may be valuable. Now, to let you in on the previous one, they had assembled a team. Hybridgothica, specifically in this person's scenario, is assembling teams to handle Nests. The previous one, in case you are curious, even though I skipped over it because it has basically been deconfirmed recently, they had Leona, Guidel, and Ash Crimson on the same team. Do with that what you want. Interesting team comp, I will say, but do I think it's going to be in 15? No. I do think all three of these characters will be in the game, more so Angel and Sylvie Paula, but I don't think they're going to be on a team. Team Korea, Kim, Chang, and Choi. Oh, the OGs. Yep. Chang and Choi are finally back under Kim's tutelage, now worked twice as hard before, mostly due to Kim's utter disappointment at their shenanigans being pulled away after only a week of being unsupervised. He would have worked them thrice as hard, but he's secretly thanking the two crooks for giving him an excuse to be away from Gongil and Luong. This I could see happening. I mean, we've seen, of course, Kim not liking the fact that Luong and Gongil want to tag along with him when he goes to train in the mountains in their ending, so... And then again, I think somebody might have alluded to the three of them reuniting in the KOF manga, the one based on 14. It's a possibility. Here y'all go. Team US Sports. Of course, it's the OGs. Honestly, the developers would have to be utter morons to not let the guys back in after years of being absent, especially for its 15th installment. Anyway, the reason the sports teams finally gets another shot at the tournament is basically the global war between Orochi and Ness is scaring off and distracting enough competitors to thin the potential herd, as it were. To fill you in on this, yes, in this person's scenario, they have Orochi and Ness and I think a couple other factions going at it. And so basically, in this case, everybody's so freaked out that the way the US sports team gets in, since the running gag about them constantly getting their invitation stolen, so I guess they're framing this as a way to actually get the US sports team in, seeing of course that running gag with them constantly getting their invitation stolen. If there is some type of big world-shattering faction war, something like that, this could be a possibility. That's a good way to write them in. Everybody's so freaked out and scared and stuff, where like the US team is like, oh my goodness, can we really? Oh my gosh, we can finally get in. You see that? We can finally get in. I know y'all been wanting the US sports team for a minute. I mean, I'm not crazy about the US sports team like a lot of other KOF fans are. I like Heavy D, don't get me wrong. Heavy D is cool. I do wonder if we will finally see them again. Oh, what a freaking joyful day in the SNK fandom that will be. The return of the US sports team. Team Grandmasters, Gongil, Mr. Karate, and a new character. Takuma very well knows that his days as a legitimate fighter are up, having been pulling his body through constant rigor and battle way more than he should actually be. Due to this and how the world is almost burning from the war between Orochi and Ness, he decides now would be the perfect time for one last grand fight. Once more, for the last time, donning the identity of Mr. Karate, he assembled two other old masters, Gongil and a mysterious masked newcomer, to join him for what may be his final tournament before permanent retirement. The masked newcomer will be revealed to be actually Jeff Bogard, another one of the many souls released and brought back to life due to Versus destruction. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. I would say this would be one hell of a reveal if they played this out, but I have the sneaking suspicion if they legit had like some masked person join like a team of masters or like anybody that might be closely related to people that Jeff Bogard associates with, whether like it's a Tung Fu Ru maybe, or whomever else you can possibly think of, they put him like in a mask or a disguise, the whole fandom will be like, that's Jeff Bogard. It's him. It's oh snap. But that's actually pretty cool. I like that. Team Villain. B. Jenny, Xanadu, and Earthquake. Infamous pirate B. Jenny enters the KOF tournament once again, and once again for the prize money, but also due to boredom as the current evil versus evil conflict, talking about that Nest and that Orochi conflict again, has made robbing people far too easy, as it is really like looting than actual stealing. In order to compete, she decides to create her own team, the first being Xanadu after the crazed villain after unintentionally ditching Chang and Choi when Kim came knocking. The second choice comes from the rather unexpected return of Earthquake and his gang from the Makai realm. After a couple of months of trying to plunder the riches of Makai, Earthquake soon came to the realization that there were no real treasure to plunder to being with, mostly due to, Makai being essentially a freaking hell dimension. Disappointed and annoyed, Earthquake decides to round up his gang, which now included a couple of demons, and return to the land of the living, only to find it's now the 21st century. Okay. Thankfully for him, Jenny managed to rescue Earthquake and his gang before he killed himself with dealing with the modern day police. She manages to acclimate the ninja to the far future quite well, and after some sweet talking and sexy motions, convinces Earthquake to join her for the next tournament. I sat there and tried to match the whole sexy motions thing, but I quickly realized it was Jenny trying to seduce Earthquake, and I'm gonna keep on going. Anyways, conflict soon arises in the team, however, as Earthquake soon realizes that he's actually taking orders from a woman who's not even a real criminal, rich brat who is into piracy as a hobby for essentially free. But he finds himself unable to just ditch her since all this modern technology, particularly all these modern day guns, scare the bejeebus out of him, leaving him in a rather undesirable situation. The inter-team conflict can be used as hilarious callback to the infamous Pirates vs. Ninjas conflict, as well as possibly reveal that the cult Xanadu was implied to lead worshipped Orochi. What am I supposed to do with that? I was already having awkward thoughts when it was talking about Jenny freaking seduced Earthquake into joining her, and then all of a sudden we leave on that freaking cliffhanger right there? Xanadu worshipping Orochi? And I get it, they're trying to find a way to get Earthquake into KOF since he was in SVC Chaos, so why not? Plus I could see a character like an Earthquake fitting in a KOF now that I think about it. Oh, my buddy Chester Cat hates that character and probably hates the fact I entertain the idea of Earthquake being in KOF 15. But yeah, that was one hell of a freaking scenario to draw up right there. It's just a little bit, it makes my head hurt trying to imagine that right there as a unit. Jenny, Xanadu, and Earthquake. It's Jenny with freaking two big dudes. Let's move on. I'm messing this up. I'm making this so bad. Ooh, Team Evil. So we got Team Villains and we got Team Evil, assuming that all of this is drawn up by the same person, because could be a collaborative, but anyways. Freeman, Yuji Yamazaki, and Mizuki Rashojin. This team will be notable as none of the members were given formal invitations to compete, and in fact used forged invitations to compete. I can't think of it right off the bat, but I feel like there is another team that could possibly enter the freaking tournament with forged invitations. I can't think of who I'm thinking of though. However, considering the massive war between the two competing criminal organizations at the movement, nobody really cares so much. The team consists entirely of psychotic murderers who are merely taking advantage of the chaos to indiscriminately murder people left and right, in particular Mizuki. whom relishes the insanity going as it reminds her of the Warring States period of feudal Japan. The new designation is to differentiate between the villains and evil, as while villains are merely bad guys who break the law, evil are just plain sick bastards. May or may not be revealed that Freeman could also be an AntiNests agent. I don't know about that. But also, props to this person, because at first I was kinda sorta curious about the whole team villains and team evil, but awesome job differentiating the two, that's solid. To be honest, this is actually a pretty crazy freaking idea for a team, and I like it. I mean, because Yamazaki, unfortunately, is kind of basically being tolerated by Orochi since his insanity is making him Riot of the Blood invincible, so not like he's really all buddying up and he's not as, subservient like the 15 Team Orochi is, so. Team Southtown, Geese Howard, Billy Kane, and Eiji Kisaragi. Geese takes an intense in the ensuing Orochi vs. Nest conflict, if only because the whole thing is messing with his operations in Southtown. The city being narrowly destroyed during the Nest saga already put a major damper on everything. Geese does not need this war going on just when things were heading back into normalcy. Geese brings along Billy again to compete, but also brings along ninja assassin Eiji Kisaragi, mostly because Geese finds the ninja to be infinitely more reliable than Yamazaki, probably true, in his case at least, and to indulge the ninja in allowing him to finally destroy the Sakazaki family once and for all. Meanwhile, Hein is left in charge of Southtown while Geese is gone. Hein goes from being a butler to a boss. I've seen a lot of people want AG back, and I mean, I'm pretty sure if you dangle the opportunity, hey, you can destroy the Sakazaki once more, he'll gleefully go back to Geese's side. I might have to lift this idea from this person for my prediction board. Team Dors, Shenwu, Duolan, and Kukuri. Oh, they didn't put Elizabeth on there. Sent by Emily, I assume they mean Elizabeth, or Betty as Ash calls her, to mostly keep track of Ash and his activities, and essentially cover him whenever things get too much for him, as Ash is now considerably weaker and must now put actual effort into fighting. We'll also learn more about Kukuri, and why in particular he hates Shunei, whom he outright despises for no apparent reason. I feel like we're gonna learn about that in 15 regardless of what team he's on. I mean, honestly, hey, they really didn't do that good of a job at pushing Shunei to be like the guy far as the protagonist, in my opinion at least. So maybe a very comprehensive, cinematic, well-detailed storyline will be in 15, I hope, so we can actually get more in tune with the story. Aside from obvious things that I've talked about before, a full-on story mode with some cinematics, all of that is something else I really want in KOF 15. It's interesting because they don't have Elizabeth on there. Now I'm kind of questioning my own prediction, like, is Elizabeth gonna take like a back seat now? Like, you know what, maybe she just wants to be a watcher, I suppose, or like, I mean, she has agents. In terms of nomenclature, if we will, this is incorrect. However, I'm not looking at that, I'm just looking simply at the composition. Team quote-unquote Orochi, because we already have Team Orochi, the band as I call them. One set of the massive big bad ensemble for 15, Orochi is back, but thanks to being resurrected from Versus Destruction instead of being properly released, he's severely weakened to the point he is incapable of possessing able-bodied fighters and must rely on either weaker fleshed hosts or even automatons. Despite this, Orochi is still extremely powerful and not to be taken lightly. Rugal and Gonitz are his two co-dragons, the latter in charge of whipping up the enthralled minions into a frenzy and recruiting new ones, while the former is in charge of the business and criminal aspects. Interestingly, the two co-dragons will have completely opposing dynamics with Orochi. Rugal is clearly the dragon with an agenda and plans to eventually pull a Starscream on Orochi, but Orochi treats the man with staggering amounts of respect and trust, almost to the point of absurd genre blindness, despite him not having Orochi's blood in him. Gonitz, on the other hand, is fanatically loyal to Orochi, as I just said, willing to die for his god, but Orochi treats the man like utter crap, mostly due to Gonitz having the means of freeing Orochi the first time much earlier than expected. twice. Does not matter if there were backup plans, the fact remains Gonitz failed when circumstances literally served him victory on a platter. Interesting. But I agree with, I think it was maybe JT that talked about this on one of my videos. While I entertain the idea of Rugal being on a team at the same time, I can't really see him being on a team, even if it involves a bunch of other big bads and maybe somebody, in this case Orochi, who is probably bigger and badder than he is. And part of me wonders how this would even factor with the war in this person's scenario. Not saying there's a contradiction, it's just, I'm curious. Team Nests, Chrysalid, Ignis, and Nameless. Cue the angry K49 mob if Nameless is in KOF 15. Boy, oh boy. Another set of the massive big bad ensemble for 15. The three most powerful members of Nests come together to revitalize the organization, two of them right after being resurrected by Versus destruction. Ignis and Chrysalid, I assume. Despite having both the resources and capability to utterly crush Orochi and take over the world, the thing that's holding back the organization is the heavily conflicting end goals amongst the three leaders. Chrysalid wants to continue the work and ultimate goal of the original Nest. Ignis wants to destroy everything not loyal to Nests, and he's given up trying to become God and now wants to become the devil. And Nameless doesn't give a crap and is actually having his own plans on the side. Probably something to do with his long-lost lover. This team would be able to give the developers the slack they need to flesh out Nest as an organization plot-wise, as well as possibly fill up the plot holes left when K49 was giving the retcon boot. I actually have an idea that I actually kind of wrote out just for the hell of it on how they could bring back K49 in KOF 15. If you want a video of that, let me know. That's an interesting lineup, but I can't really see Nameless being villainous or loyal to Ness at all. I've just always seen him as a neutral. The man has his own goals, as I just mentioned. In this scenario, his own plans on the side more than likely have to do with Isolde. So, I don't know. But then again, hey, I mean, the invitation team, Kukuri broke off and had his own little aspirations, so, I mean, I don't know. The only thing is I just can't see Nameless coming back as a Nest freaking loyalist, unless they retcon everything we knew about him before. Not like he's really in the canon, to be honest. I mean, he was just there as a device to get freaking... you know what happened.